Oh, you can come up here with me. Okay, well, good morning. We'll go ahead and get started. In 2011, we announced a privately led, publicly endorsed initiative called the Healthy Estate. Healthy Estate is really rooted in our belief that Iowans must take ownership of their own health and healthcare decisions to truly become more healthier. We've made significant progress in our Healthy Estate goal, ranking 14th nationally. Our score has improved at twice the national average, but of course, we're not done yet. We want to be number one in the country, and that's what we like to do. We like to lead in Iowa, and so that continues to be our objective. That's why I'm pleased to highlight a Healthy Estate program that launched as a pilot program last summer, and it's now expanding. And that program is Double Up Food Bucks. More than 380,000 Iowans rely on federal food assistance, and this program helps low-income Iowa families, helps them to get fresh produce. When it comes to eating fruits and vegetables, we have a long ways to go, so here's a lot of opportunity for improvement. Iowa currently ranks 50th in consumption of fruits and vegetables. It also goes a long way in helping support local farmers, and the Double Up Food Bucks matches SNAP benefits up to $10 at participating farmers markets. Iowans can use their double dollars to buy more locally grown fruits and vegetables. And by increasing access to fresh produce, we not only help meet our goal of growing healthier Iowans, but communities, farmers get new customers, and we help strengthen local economies. What's most important is SNAP shoppers can make healthy choices by buying fresh fruits and vegetables. The Double Up Food Bucks program is just one way the Healthy Estate initiative is improving the physical, social, and emotional well-being of Iowans. And so now I'd like to ask Erin to say a few words about the new program. So Erin?
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. My name is Erin Mclaren. I'm Director of Programs at the Healthy Estate Initiative. The Healthy Estate Initiative's mission is to improve the overall physical, social, and emotional well-being of Iowans. Double Up Food Bucks is helping us achieve that goal while we increase access to fresh fruits and vegetables for low-income Iowans, simultaneously supporting Iowa farmers and growing the local economies. I'm pleased to announce that this year we have expanded the Double Up Food Bucks program from 6 sites last year to 13 in 2017, and that spans 8 counties in Iowa. Along with that, we have expanded from farmers markets to now include mobile groceries and mobile markets, once again helping to increase that access to the fresh, healthy foods. The success of Double Up Food Bucks wouldn't be possible without the statewide partnerships that we have incurred. That starts with local markets who bring this program to life, statewide agencies and statewide partnerships who help extend the impact, and then, of course, the businesses such as United Healthcare and AmeriHealth, Caritas of Iowa, who provide financial support and impact. We appreciate their sponsorship and support, and we couldn't do it without them. In 2017, we're aiming to serve 5,000 families in Iowa, resulting in $100,000 of fresh, healthy food being taken home from Iowa markets. Those dollars spent will directly impact over 300 Iowa farmers, once again helping to grow the economies in Iowa. So that truly is a win-win for our state. For more information on the sites and information about the Double Up Food Bucks program, please visit the Iowa Healthy Estate Initiative website. That's www.iowahealthyestate.com. Thank you.
We would open it up to questions on this topic. And thank you, Erin. That's a great expansion of a program.
This is the Thank you. This is the first food nutrition incentive program that's statewide in Iowa. So we match the SNAP dollars spent 1-for-1 up to $10 per market day with Double Up Food Bucks. Those Double Up Food Bucks can be spent on any locally grown fruits and vegetables. Currently in 8 counties, we are adding sites every day, every month. It's an ongoing basis.
What percentage SNAP
I'm sorry, I don't have that specific answer, but I can get it for you. We do try and target some of the most in need areas, especially within the counties themselves.
But that's one of the reasons that we're doing the press conference this morning, so that we can help raise awareness and help encourage or challenge other communities across the state to adopt this program. In Clark County, we have a farmers market. It's the place to be on Thursdays and Saturdays. And so the more we can get the word out and talk about the opportunities to encourage Iowans to eat healthy, that's the whole purpose of the initiative. And I just appreciate the public-private partnerships that are taking place. So that's where we see the most success with the programs that we've launched. And so I really appreciate your efforts to grow and expand this great initiative.
We actually are piloting electronic benefit redemption this year, but we are serving both the token-based and electronic redemption.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'm going to go, before we get started, I wanted to address the budget issue, since I've been asked about that frequently as we travel across the state on our 99 county tour. So, folks are rightly concerned about the state budget and what it means to them. So I wanted to give the press an update. My team and I are monitoring revenues daily, and will continue to do so until the books are closed for fiscal year 2017, which closes on September 30th. At this point, it looks unlikely that Iowa tax receipts will be able to meet the REC projections for fiscal year 2017. However, we will not be able to determine the extent of that shortfall until September 30th. We are currently examining all of our options, but let me say first that all education payments will be made in the next couple of days, and the Medicaid payments have already been made. So those areas are already taken care of. As for the other obligations, because of the lateness in this fiscal year, it's absolutely not realistic for us to do additional cuts. You can remember in the last legislative session, we did do a $118 million DIAPROP. We didn't do an across-the-board cut. We made targeted cuts. We exempted K-12 property tax, backfill in Medicaid, and then with the $131 million, we used the Economic Emergency Fund to cover that, which will be paid back in the next 2 years. So we're looking at covering the budget shortfall through the state's Economic Emergency Fund. By statute, I do have the authority to transfer up to $50 million from that fund without calling back the legislature. So we're hopeful that we can manage the remaining budget within that amount. It's also important to remember that our economy is still growing. So while states across this nation are experiencing the same thing that Iowa is experiencing, we're still seeing growth. It's just not as robust as we had participated. Also, unemployment is at a 16-year low at 3.1%, and the state does have $600 million in our cash reserves. So the bottom line is that there will be continuity of government, and Iowa will experience no change from when the sun sets on June 30th to the morning of July 1st. There's also been questions as to why Iowa is seeing this shortfall, and the Iowa Department of Revenue is seeing lower than expected receipts for individual income tax as well as sales and use tax. On the income tax side, the softness is mainly been seen in two areas. Capital gains revenues are lower than anticipated, and depreciation expense is higher than expected. Both of those issues are caused by changes in financial behavior, and a lot of that has been due to what Iowans have, the federal tax reform that's been anticipated, but is yet to materialize. So they're making decisions based on the fact that they still believe that the federal government will be able to implement some type of tax reform yet this year. On the sales and use tax side, the weakness is mainly in consumer purchases, which has caused in part by ripple effects of commodity prices, and in part by consumer purchasing continuing to shift to out-of-state online retailers. More and more of Iowans are going online to make their purchases, and so we're seeing sales tax remain stagnant, if not seeing somewhat of a dip because of those changes in purchasing habits. It has become increasingly clear that our tax code doesn't align well with today's economy. Our income tax is partially tied to federal government tax policy, and Iowa has a very complex tax system. So, as a result, projecting revenues is becoming increasingly difficult. Our tax system was designed for a different time when purchase behavior patterns were more static, and we're living in somewhat of a volatile economy, and it's clear that state government is not immune. Our team is working on tax reform plan that looks at how we can approach this new economy. We want a tax structure that is fair and less complicated for Iowa taxpayers, will promote economic growth, and will be affordable, and most importantly, that it will be sustainable. Finally, low commodity prices has had a ripple effect all across other sectors of our economy. Many of our factory jobs are tied to a strong ag economy. And when we see corn prices over the last 2 years go from $8 a bushel to $3 a bushel, purchasing behaviors change. Farmers aren't upgrading their equipment, and that's not only affecting our manufacturers but also sellers. So it's not just what we're seeing in our own data. Another case in point is Casey's recently reported last week, I believe, that its store sales were lower than expected due to the soft ag economy. So while they're still seeing growth in their sales, it was just not as robust as they had projected also. So that lines up with the findings in the Department of Revenue. So with that, thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you an update on where we're at right now, and how we're monitoring this through the end of the fiscal year, then through the accrual period, which is September 30th. We'll open it up for questions.
Mr. Broder said you did not have the authority to dip into the economic fund because there hadn't been an across the board cut in the budget. Has that now been proven to be untrue?
I believe we've looked at the statute, and we believe with the way the statute reads and the timing of the shortfall that we do have the authority to transfer up to $50 million from the Economic Emergency Fund.
Without making
Yes.
The shortfall were to exceed 50 million is the only option left to call.
Yep. So we're monitoring it, but that's what we're looking at right now, is that if it would be above that, then we would we'd have to call a special session and bring the legislators back.
But as of right now, you are ruling out inspection.
Well, right now, as we're monitoring it, but again, Bill, we won't know until September 30th. We're wanting income revenue coming in, but through the accrual period, that changes. So right now, it looks like we would be able to do that. But, I'm not going to commit to that. I'm not going to rule out a special session, because just as we saw the volatility from May to June, that might not be the case. It's clear that I have the authority up to 50 million, but over that, then it would require a special session.
Before the last session started, said he didn't think the state could afford a tax cut at that time. The situation seems to have gotten worse. Can the state afford it now?
Well, we're going to put everything on the table, and that means we take a look at holistically how we can do comprehensive tax reform. Also, as I indicated, we're watching the federal government. If they're able to implement tax reform, that is one of the variables that'll have a impact on what we're able to do from a comprehensive tax reform. So there's a lot of variables on the table right now, and that we can continue to see some volatility, but we're going to do the runs, and we're going to work with stakeholders, and that is a priority. I believe that's the next thing that we need to do to make sure that Iowa is competitive, so that we can encourage business and industry to expand and grow and locate in the state of Iowa. But you heard me say the number one of our top priorities also is to make sure that it's sustainable and that we honor the commitments that have been made. So we have to be very conscientious of how we put this in place. There's a lot of different triggers. I mean, there's a lot of different things that could take place, but we need to make sure that it's sustainable and that we honor commitments like education. And well, we're just going to we're going to look at all aspects of that. And so I'm not going to commit to anything. I'm not going to be boxed in, because it's important, I think, that we don't do that we be very systematic and take a look at what all of our options are before we start releasing what that looks like.
Mike Fitzgerald is where it's expressing concern about taking state payments. I understand that you addressed
The two big ones.
the biggest ones, exactly. What about everything else? Do you feel pretty confident? You feel confident?
Yeah,
Everything
yeah.
Without, as of right
Yep. And we're monitoring it with the ability that we have to transfer the 50 million. We have 600 million in our reserves.
So this is going to come out.
It has the up to 50 million comes out of the Economic Emergency Fund. Correct. That's not an option, and we're not doing that, and I don't believe it's a necessity. I hope we've not talked to him. He's not reached out to our office, so would look forward to working with him as we walk through this process. I haven't had the opportunity to visit with him. He's not called, but we don't believe that we don't have to do that. We're not going down that path.
So if you had to use the 50 million, then you would have taken 181 million out of.
The 131 million came out of the cash reserves. This comes out of the Economic Emergency Fund. And we already, well, yes. And it will automatically refill that through the process, the way the system works. So a lot of that automatically takes place, but with the 131 million that was borrowed from the the cash reserves fund, keep these two straight, that in the legislation that was passed, they laid out how we would pay that back in the next 2 years. So that has been accounted for, and through the way that the money comes back in, the Economic Emergency Fund would be refilled also.
The medical marijuana program, the Department of Health did a call last week, and it just seems like they were very fuzzy on a lot of details about how they were going to implement the program, how it was going to roll out. Is somebody in your administration helping them
Well,
with that?
Yeah, and well, in Director Claybaugh's defense, I mean, this has been a really short time frame because of when the legislation was passed and with the previous legislation expiring, and really significant expansion in what the existing program was. And so they have filed emergency rules, and they are working on a daily basis to really put the parameters in place for the program. Our policy person, and Nick Pottebaum, is working very closely with Director Claybaugh to really work through the process. We want to be sure and get it right. And they really are, in a very tight turnaround, doing the best that they can to put the rules in place, to get the board put in place. And I just want to commend them on the work that they're doing to meet the expectations of the legislation. They're working on that right now. I mean, he's working on the names and filling it. So just as soon as we can, we'll work through that process. It's pretty specific on the individuals that the requirements of the board makeup. So we're working on that.
Are you committing to a timeframe to paying that back?
Well, as soon as possible, but I think as the revenue comes down, and we can walk, I'll have Director Roeder kind of walk you through what that looks like. But yes.
What you have to make some cuts over to make up for that?
Well, we're going to do everything we can to increase revenue and look for ways that we can provide services to Iowans in a more efficient and effective manner. But we're looking for opportunity. And, I mean, gosh, first of all, that starts with making sure that we have a skilled workforce. And that's one of our top 4 priorities, because if we're going to grow the economy at the rate that I believe we can, when I talk to business and industry, it's just a lack of skilled workforce, and that's what's preventing them from really growing and expanding. And as we're marketing the state, we've got a tremendous work ethic. We've got great Iowans that are, a great workforce, but we need to expand that, and we need to work with Iowans to get them the skills to fill the jobs. And so that's one way that we're going to help expand and grow our economy, is by working with unemployed and underemployed Iowans and helping them get a skill that provides a successful career for them.
In the past, there have any idea how much unspent money may be out there in state agencies?
You know, I don't know exactly right now, Kay, but we're looking at all of those. That's just a part of what we're reviewing on a daily basis that would allow us to keep the amount of shortfall as small as we can.
Would you consider furloughs?
Well, I'm not going to start.
I mean,
Yeah.
you have a few, I mean, you have a couple weeks.
Yeah, right now we're not looking at that.
Governor Reynolds, Jeff Sessions is testifying today on the bill. What do you say to Iowa voters who are troubled by this investigation, voters that helped put this administration in power?
Well, you know, I think that they're confident that President Trump and this administration are doing the job that they said that they would do, you know, really going out there working to make America great again. Let me just tell you from my perspective as a governor of the state of Iowa and what I experienced as a lieutenant governor working with Governor Branstad. You know, we need a partner in Washington, D.C. and not somebody that had worked against us. And that's what was happening. The overreach and the expectations, the regulatory climate that was being pushed down on states like Iowa was having a direct impact on our economy. The uncertainty, the regulatory climate, the waters of the U.S., the instability in the renewable fuel standard by not setting the volumes and not really upholding what the congressional intent was. So we were seeing all kinds of uncertainty in the state of Iowa, still doing well, but we were constantly fighting with that. And what we now have is somebody that's working with us. That's the insurance, you know, that we're dealing with right now. The stopgap proposal that we've just made to Washington, D.C. is a great example of that, that they're willing to provide some flexibility to the states to give us the opportunity to design a program that meets the needs of Iowans. There's the one size fits all doesn't work. And I think we've seen that play out over the last 8 years. And so this is an opportunity with healthcare, for example, to put in place a stopgap proposal. This is a short-term fix. It's not a long-term fix that will hopefully allow us to provide coverage for 72,000 Iowans that would not have access to health care if we don't get something done. And so it's crucial that we work to get that done.
Are you going to?
What do you say to the rural voters of Iowa who voted in this administration on the basis that they're tired of these corrupt Washington politicians?
Well, you know, I think it's yet to be seen. So far, many of the accusations have been unfounded. And I think that's played out as we've heard a lot of the testimony. So I believe that the longer that it goes, a lot of the allegations have been proven to not be what they were laid out to be.
Are you going to Cedar Rapids next week, and will you speak beyond the dais?
We're going. I don't know what the details are for sure, but we'll be over there.
And Governor, do you have a response to President Trump's budget and the losses that may
Yeah.
mean in Iowa in terms of federal grants?
Well, right now, I'm focused on the flexibility that they're providing the state. That's a budget. That's not what it'll end up. So wouldn't be timely for me to start to weigh in on some of, you know, what those proposals are. They've got a long ways to go before it becomes any type of a budget is laid out. We've had the opportunity, I've had the opportunity to talk with a lot of his cabinet on issues that pertain to Iowa. I've been very appreciative of the access and the time and the willingness to listen to our state's needs to help make sure that we continue to grow the economy. They need all 50 states growing in order to meet their goals and their objections. And so the more successful that states can be across this country, the more successful that this country is going to be. And we in Iowa want to lead the way in really growing the economy and being successful. So
Back to the budget. The snapshot we had for the first 11 months on May 31st was $100 million, roughly $97 million.
right.
We've got 12 days that have passed. Is it still about $97 million, or is it fluctuating wildly?
It has fluctuated quite a bit. It's quite a bit lower at this point, you know, but don't lock me in because we saw that volatility. But, you know, we're hoping that we'll be able to do this without a special session. And we know, you know, what that target needs to be. So thank you.
Can I just ask, what's the status of the DH director? You're going to need somebody this year?
Well, in the next several days, we'll be naming somebody. So that will be forthcoming shortly. Thank you very much.